PlayStation Now has made its way to Windows, bringing PC gamers access to a whole library of PS3 games, a lot of which have been exclusive to consoles. So here's 5 games you absolutely must play now if you've never had the chance. First up, The Last of Us. Putting you in the shoes of the weary and bitter Joel, Last of Us has you go through a linear story as you try to protect and escort a young girl named Ellie through a post-apocalyptic world filled with mushroom zombies. Now, while the idea of a zombie survival game isn't exactly original, Last of Us really knocks it out of the park thanks to making its zombie creatures a real threat even in small numbers, and makes heavy use of resource collection to craft the tools you need to get by. Most importantly though is the game's story, being easily the best thing to come out of Naughty Dog, with a strong opening, excellent pacing, and deftly handled ending that sticks with you long after you've finished it. It's not perfect, some of the game's minor puzzle-like elements are kinda weak and get repetitive, but it's all worth it to reach the game's excellent conclusion. Now, second on the list, we might as well keep the Naughty Dog train going with Uncharted 2. Now, all 3 of the original Uncharted games are fun adventures worth checking out, but if there is one and only one you need to experience, it's the series' excellent second chapter. The core gameplay isn't exactly deep with simple third-person shooting mechanics and linear platforming, but this is all balanced out by the game's incredibly entertaining presentation. Its storytelling, its dynamic visuals during platform segments, and the witty banter between characters makes this game pretty much the closest thing we have to a proper Indiana Jones game, albeit with a much larger body count that almost gets comical when you really think about it. When you want to take a break from difficulty and just enjoy a game whose main goal is good old-fashioned pulpy fun, Uncharted 2 is exactly what you're looking for. Now for number 3, let's go ahead and get a little more artsy with the incredible experience that is Journey. Journey is one of those games that might bring some to question what does and doesn't count as a video game. It is ultimately a very simple and very straightforward experience. Journey across the game's linear world to its finish line with very minimal platforming and puzzle difficulty. But if you're to rule out playing this game based on that alone, you'd be missing out on so much. Journey is one of the most beautiful games ever made visually and musically, and while the gameplay is simple, it has a few twists that turn it into a truly unique experience. Specifically, it's co-op. It's possible for 2 players playing at the same time to encounter one another during their journey, but you will not see each other's name, nor is there any clear way to communicate with one another outside of making a few sounds. It creates this odd sense of fellowship, running into one another and potentially trying to stick through the game together or try to ditch each other ASAP. It's a short game, but it's the kind of game that really has an impact on you, making PlayStation Now a perfect fit for it. Alright, so enough with the feelings bullshit, let's get back to a bit of blood and violence with one of Sony's biggest exclusive franchises, God of War. Which one, you ask? Any of them. They're all on PlayStation Now, though the original trilogy deserves your attention the most. Talk to anyone who's played the series, and their answer for which is their favorite is bound to be one of the main trilogy. Whether it's a love for 1 and how it changed the hack-and-slash genre, 2 for how it expanded the world and gameplay of the original, or 3 for having some of the most intense and cinematic fight scenes in gaming history. They're all excellent games, and really, if anything, deserve to be played in order so you get the full bloody experience as you massacre your way through the entire Greek pantheon in a quest for vengeance. So, while PlayStation Now is technically a service featuring PS3 games, it also has PS2 games that were ported over and got remade in HD, as you saw with God of War 1 and 2. And as a result of that, it means you have the option to play one of the greatest and most influential games to come out of the PS2. Shadow of the Colossus. Now, all the other games on this list have either been pretty eye-candy or satisfyingly difficult, and Shadow of the Colossus is both of these. While its older graphics may look a bit dated, its dark and dreary art style still comes through, pitting players against gigantic enemies that double as both boss fights and platforming puzzles. This is the game that introduced the idea of fighting enemies that dwarfed you in size, in a way that actually kinda made sense, accompanied by a somber story that accents the gameplay and visuals perfectly. This is one of the most important games to come out during the PS2's generation, and if you haven't played it yet, that needs to change immediately. Alright, so I do have one bonus game for you guys because it feels wrong doing a list on awesome PlayStation exclusive games without at least touching on one of the many JRPGs that PlayStation Now has, and if there's one I gotta talk about, it's Ninokuni. Now, if you've never heard or seen of this game before, I know what you're thinking. It looks super childish, right? Well, it is, but in that kind of family-friendly Pixar Studio Ghibli kind of way that'll make an adult suffer waves of childhood nostalgia and probably shed some tears, unless you're a heartless monster. Mixing traditional party-based RPG combat with Pokemon-style monster hunting and catching, this game strikes an excellent balance of being both interesting for adults to enjoy, but simple enough for young upstart gamers to play through, with a story that the whole family can get engrossed in. I promise you, check this one out, you will not regret it. Extra bonus, Asura's Wrath. Screw logic. Blow up a guy larger than the Earth by punching his finger super hard. Do it.